guys, how's it going? Today I want to give you an update on 5 different projects that we've worked on this season, starting here in the Versailles garden with these sprinter boxwoods. We've been on a little bit of a journey with these and they are looking so good. I'm so proud of these plants. I kind of trash talked them earlier this spring and maybe they heard me, but about 3 years ago, maybe it was 2 years ago, they suffered a super bad spider mite infestation. In fact, if you kind of come in close on these, you can still see some of the damage right in here. See that? Spider mites suck the sap out of your leaves and they give them that really kind of mottled appearance, and in super severe cases it mottles them so much that they almost turn white, which these were. So that's where the problem started to occur, and we took care of that problem, and then they kind of grew up, and I was thinking, well, I need to let these things grow out past that damage because the damage doesn't reverse. I needed fresh growth on the outsides. Well, I think I let them maybe grow a little bit too much past the damage, and then they started getting a little bit floppy, and I was trimming on them a little bit here and there, but they got to a point where we had a rainstorm earlier this summer that just flattened them out because they didn't have a strong enough network of branches down below. And I just thought, we're done with these because this is too much of a centerpiece in this garden, and I need something that's going to hold up to a rainstorm and hold up to spider mites and all of that stuff. So I thought, this is kind of my last ditch effort. I'm going to come in with my hedge trimmers and I cut these back hard to where they looked really bad. But I thought it's either that, kind of take them back down, let them form up that network of branches and flush out new growth, or we're going to rip them out altogether. And look at them now. They have really done a good job. We have had a favorable summer for a lot of plants. We've had a lot more moisture and a lot more cool days than normal. Usually we have weeks and weeks and weeks of 100+ degree temperatures, and I think maybe Aaron, 10 days maybe tops of 100+ days, which that's rare for us. So plants have had a chance to rebound. So I'm really happy with this. I mean, clearly if you get close, you can still see some of that damage, but I feel like even now the plants are a little bit stronger than they were. In fact, when they started to flush back, I thought, oh man, I should have taken them back even further, like right to here. You can kind of see like a little bit of where maybe I started letting them kind of grow a little bit more wild. So anyway, we'll just see how it goes. We will be trimming these in the next couple of weeks because I want to keep that tight growth habit. But anyway, I thought that you guys might like to see an update because it's only been, 2 months since I did that? Maybe we'll look at the dates, but anyway, very happy with that. And on that note, I'd like to show you the sprinter boxwoods on the west side as well, because we did take after those that same time period. Actually, 2 updates in this area. Boxwoods first, and then we're going to talk about these begonias right here. But we had kind of the same issue with these, not quite as severe as the ones we just looked at, but during that same rainstorm, all of these kind of splayed out. I did notice they had a little bit more of a sturdiness about them than the other ones, but they had a tremendous amount of spider mite damage, worse on the backside, so we'll look at that here in a second. But you could see quite a lot of like the white parts, especially like when I took it in further right here. You can kind of still see a little bit in here, but they flushed back and put on so much new growth. I mean, if you kind of come in close right here and take a look at all of this, look at all of this new growth in here. I mean, they just really have done a great job. Let's pop over to the other side real quick. Yeah, I mean, look at this. This was bad. This was really bad. In fact, sorry, Aaron, if you want to come in a little closer again, look at all of this right in here. Like all of this little green stuff right here is brand new growth that's covering up a bunch of the old damaged stuff. And when we pruned these in, because they had splayed out, look at that, they had splayed out so much, it had exposed a bunch of that. And now you don't really notice it unless you get close in. And the back sides here, these were the worst, the absolute worst. And I have to say, even though you can still see quite a bit of the damage, they have flushed a lot of new growth. So anyway, I'm just very happy with how these sprinters have recovered, especially when I was thinking, I'm gonna have to replace all of these, and we've waited a long time for them to create this feel over here and the shape that they are. We have a lot of time into it, and it would be a tragedy really to have to pull them out in lieu of something that might hold up better. But if they're gonna respond like this, they get to live another day. Okay, begonias. Okay, the Surefire white begonias. Now, I don't know if you guys remember what these look like when we planted them, but they were itty bitty, like tiny. And they had barely rooted into their cans. Like you could still see where the plug roots were. A lot of the soil fell off the roots when I popped them out of their cans, which made them very easy to plant. But they were very little, and I thought, oh boy, this is gonna take forever for them to grow in. They might be too puny, and I kind of thought that the first month and a half or so. It took them a while to bulk up, but boy, have they ever done a great job at filling up this space. I love the way they look. I love the bold foliage of this begonia contrasted with the smaller, more, well, just dainty foliage of the boxwood there. And the white blooms have been wonderful, a nice, bright, peaceful pop in here, and no deadheading. That's the thing, you know, these, what's the thing that affects the white blooms on these? Botrytis, is that right? A lot of times they get brown and look really crummy on a lot of other begonias. Zero brown crumminess on these at any point this season. So I don't know. Do they have dead blooms ever? Do they just disappear? I don't know. They just look good and fresh all the time. Let's look at a couple more areas, because some of these spots get a little more sun than others. In fact, you can kind of see a little sun coming in on that one. This one gets a lot more shade right in this area, but they react the same. And that's the thing, finding annuals or shrubs, even perennials, that can handle full sun or full shade. That's a rare thing, and that's something we have to consider over here, and that's one reason why we chose boxwoods, or why we do choose boxwoods in a lot of spaces in our garden, because we're dealing with a ton of variations of light. Part sun to full shade, and we need to have something that can kind of perform the same in all those different light requirements, and that's one thing with these Surefire Begonias. They can handle that. We rarely fertilize these. They don't need any spray for insects. They're just a very low maintenance annual. One more spot down here. These are extra bushy. Woo, look at these. Oh, look at how gorgeous these are versus when we planted. Maybe we can put a before and an after. They just look so great. I'm happy with that. And speaking of bushy, let's go to the brick circle planting area in the new brick patio. I'm really proud of what the plants have done in this area. So we've got a king tut grass in the middle, which this is kind of perfect size. They can get like way bigger than this, but we planted all of these things fairly late that I think, I don't know, it still has another month and a half to put on some growth before we start, you know, getting quite a bit cooler, but I love the size of it. And then the Coleus, my goodness. We've got the Golden Dreams Coleus right up front here, which has just kind of like boomed and has filled in big time. One thing about this Coleus here is that it, I don't know if it's because the leaves are so broad on this one, but it does require a little bit of supplemental water. And I did notice that when I had it planted in front of our gazebo, which used to be right there. I did notice I had to drag a hose out, even though it was getting drip irrigation along with everything else. It did require a bit more, and it might just be to feed that whole leaf. I mean, it's a big plant, and it's a high performing plant. We've also got some Wicked Witch Coleus in here, which is the darker colored one. And I think that that's so pretty with this Golden Dreams. That mix is so nice. And then we've also got Lime-Time Coleus, which I can tell is a tiny bit less vigorous, but it's a nice bright pop in there. Now I had some Surefire Rose Begonias and some Coconut Nemesia, which if you come this way, you can kind of see most of them have been bullied out. I did not anticipate that happening, but you can see some little bit of color there. And then Coconut Nemesia, which if that was all the way around, that would be so pretty. You could see that kind of bright white bloom in there. And then this side, as you can see, gets quite a bit more shade. So things just didn't boom on this side, but overall very happy with how this looked, especially because it was kind of it was a cobble together of some of the things that we had left over from our college planting project and a couple other projects. In fact, I had to steal some of the Coconut Nemesia from other pots that we had already planted to make it work all the way around. But anyway, I'm very happy with that. Also the Coleus area right over here. Just while we're here, let's take a look. So this whole bed right here, full of Coleus. We've got Newly Noir right here, which is that really deep maroon. It's a fairly new one. And I've left these largely alone. You can see that that one has started to set blooms, which it just started to do that. Color Blaze Coleus have been bred to either not bloom at all or set their blooms really late in the season. And I would consider now like getting toward the end part of August being a little bit later in the season. So if you can get that far without them blooming. That's really great. And some of you guys love the Coleus blooms, and I don't mind them, but most of the time we are growing Coleus, kind of like we're growing hostas for their leaves, not so much for their blooms. We've got the cherry brandy right in here, and I love that it's got a little flecks of green. Like, it's mostly red, but it's got a little bit of green to make it bright and pop, and it also helps it tie into the Lime-Time Coleus, which is right back in there. We've also got there's only 2 of the Albrido Coleus back in there, but it kind of gives you a really good idea of what Albrido does in a very shady situation. So the pink on it actually stays more pink and coral, and it's a lot less than if you have it in sun. Albrido is a very vibrant Coleus, very vibrant, but it just takes on a different hue, you know, based on the light situation. More of the Golden Dreams. So look at the difference here, how big the Golden Dreams is compared to the others. So no wonder it needs more water. The growth habit just kind of requires that. And then we've got a new Coleus called Cherry Drop. I love this one. I've had one that's been struggling. It's probably not near an emitter, but it doesn't matter. They just look so pretty right in here. I also popped just 4 right over on this side of the walkway. Sorry, I hope the lighting's okay right now. We're getting some strong morning light coming in through here. And then I also put some of the double up white begonias in here, just for a little pop of color. And then as you move this way, there are a few of the Wicked Witch right in here with more of the begonias. Anyway, I didn't anticipate showing this spot, but it's looking really good, I think. Okay, let's go to area number 4. This area right here has changed so much this season, and while I didn't plant all of this in a video, I do think we have a before shot of what this looked like, at least when the pathway had just been installed. So that's the first thing. The pathway is brand new, and it leads you all the way up to the house. And it's been so nice because it also kind of shoots you out. Like if we turn around here, we do a lot of work out here in the new property where the high tunnel is, and I've got onions and potatoes and stuff out there. So it kind of directs you right in that area. And I'm thankful that this spot is in the sun, or in the shade rather, right now. It'll be in the sun here shortly. But first of all, Supertunia Vista, Mini Vista Yellow. Oh my word, is that like not the most beautiful thing? I just decided to toss that out here along with the Helichrysums icicles, which we wintered over in our greenhouse. Now we do have the pink Senorita or Senorita Pink zinnias back here that Benjamin and I came out and planted not that long ago, and I do think we put that in a video for you. So when we planted them, they were really little. I had started those in the greenhouse, and they're just starting to bulk up and bush out, and they've got a bunch of beautiful color, and they look gorgeous with everything here. We've also got the Superbina Stormburst going, so that beautiful lavender with the soft yellow, and then that salmon pink is just a really pretty combination to me. I really love it. And this, I mean, I tried this one out for the first time last year, both in the ground and in containers, and I'm so impressed with its landscape vigor and how many blooms it has versus leaves. Like you mostly just see blooms on this plant all season long. It never lulls. It never looks bad, and I've just really loved it. I also noticed that the petals, and maybe it's because it's a mini Vista, it's got smaller blooms, but they hold it better to a lot of moisture, which is not something I've had to really think about until this year with all of the deluges of rain we have been receiving, but it holds up better. They're stronger petals. They don't collapse like some petunias do. So that's been really nice. But if you come this way, you can see, you know, just that huge drift of Superbina. We've got the random orange throwing it off, but it kind of adds a little bit of, like, I don't know, it reminds us that we're not in control, right? So there is a red one and an orange one here that have popped in. But if you continue this way, you can see how it kind of blends into the Russian sage, which that was an original. This was here when we moved in, as well as the, I think that's a Maximilian sunflower. Is that what it's called? They get massively huge, and they'll put on some yellow blooms here very soon. And that kind of leads you to our new shade area, which is looking really good. All the plants are thriving, looking great. Yeah. And speaking of zinnias, I do want to show you the zinnias in the cut flower garden. This is going to turn into like just a tour because there's a lot of pretty things right now. This is the California Giants mix, which does get about 36 inches tall, just a wild blend of color, My first crop of zinnias, which are closer to the flower shed, they still are producing blooms and they're still productive plants, but they look tired. So it's nice to have this fresh crop right by our driveway. So when anybody or we're driving in and out from the house, you get to see this huge row of fresh looking flowers. And it just looks so, so happy. Look at this interesting one. That just caught my eye. Isn't that pretty? Oh. Okay, now let's head to number 5.
Okay, I'm going to talk about project number 5 because the trees are kind of my baby. These are autumn blaze maples. This is a 3-year update. We planted these in late September of 2020, and they've probably put on about 6 to 8 feet of growth since then. They started off a little slow, and last year they did not look great. Honestly, by this time, they were looking very tired. We did have a hard year last year, but we just didn't get good fall color. This year I went hard on, I didn't do a lot of it, but I put chelated iron on them probably 6 or 7 times this year. Just a little bit of chelated iron, not a lot, but I would go through and just put a little bit around there, and I honestly think that they were just suffering before from just a lack of iron. There's iron, I think, in the soil. They just can't take it up with our high pH. So anyway, this year they're looking the best. I'm actually really excited to see how they look this fall, because I think this year is going to be the first year that we get like that really vibrant red, autumn color. So quick rundown on the stats. They grow 50 feet tall, 40 feet wide at maturity. They're zone 4 through 8. I saw a couple websites that said 3 through 8. So, we're a zone 6, so I'm not really sure what the cold zone really is, but somewhere in that range. But take a look at these leaves. They're looking, we're hot here. We have lots of days in the hundreds. So at the very edges, there's a little bit of burning, but for the most part, they're nice and green, and they don't have that, chlorosis veining. I think that they're doing really, really well, and I'm really happy about them. I was joking with Laura actually about how I feel like I've bonded with our trees the last year or so. I've talked in the past about how, maybe one day we would move to having more space or scaling down. I don't know. But at this point, I feel like it would actually be really hard. And the trees, for me, would be one of the hardest parts if we were to ever to move, because I feel like I've bonded with them. Like they're my trees. The other thing I should mention is that in the spring we go through and we go pretty hard on tree tone fertilizer from Espoma. We'll put like a half a bag or a whole bag on the entire tree. So it's kind of expensive, but I think that that's very helpful, giving them nutrients. And I don't know what it is with those tree tone bags, but when you read the directions on how much to use and you look at the caliper of how large your tree is, it's correct. You need to go through quite a bit of fertilizer to follow the directions anyway. So anyway, there's your 3-year update. I'm very happy with how they're doing, and hopefully we can do this again another 3 years and they're twice the size.
So that is all the updates we wanted to give you guys today. It's kind of fun to go through and just kind of remember some of the things that you've tackled earlier on, and especially when they're looking so good. And not everything turns out great every single year, but it's been a tremendous year. Weather-wise, I feel like things are coming into their own. A lot of things that we've planted 3 years ago out here in the South Garden, that's kind of when we started developing this, they're really starting to take off, and it's fun to see that. And it can be a hard wait on some of those things, because you know that they're going to get some size eventually, and you have to resist the urge to go in and plant so many other things around them. But to see that growth start to take off, that's just so much fun. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.